All right. This is how to create a school. Let me walk you through it quickly. You find the create school, create new school button in here. So when you click it, to create a school, you have to name your school, which is very important because both staffs and parents will have to be able to see the name of your school when they want to join your school. The interesting thing about naming school is that you wouldn't want to name your school after the general organization's name. You want to be specific to the particular school that you're creating. So let's say you have a school called Rodney Montessori Schools, and within Rodney Montessori Schools, there is a primary school and a secondary school and a nursery school. You have to be specific on which of the schools you're creating. So if you're creating a kindergarten, that is a nursery school, then you have to give it the name Rodney, Rodney Nursery School, or however it was named in your official document. After creating a school, you basically come down to the setup screen where you have a checklist of all the setup stages that you need to go through to completely set up your school. You hit continue setup and you have to set up the academic calendar. The academic calendar is basically how your school operates around the year. We all know that in some schools, most schools around Africa, an academic year consists of 3 terms. So you would want to add 3 terms as a number of terms. But for some schools that operate 2 semester structures or 4 quarter structures, you can also include them here. Now, how do you choose this exact number of terms? Some schools operate 3 terms, first, second, and third term, but also operate summer classes. And summer classes should not be construed, it should not be considered a term of its own. So that would still leave the number at 3 terms. So the official number of academic terms that you run every year should reflect the number of terms that you put in this calendar setup. So the terms per session is where you get that 3 times a year. You have to specify the current session that you're running. Um, Usually, if you're setting up cosine anytime in the year, you have one of 4 options. Either you run a full year calendar, which is the first term starts in January and the third term ends before December ends. So you have your academic calendar spanning from the beginning of one year to the end of one year. So you don't have to put last year slash this year. But if you're in a school system like most African countries, the academic year spans from one year on to the next. So you have to specify which academic year that you're currently running. If you're setting up cosine for the upcoming academic year, you have to choose that year. Don't choose the one that just got finished. So in this case, it is August 25. So we're setting up for the next academic session starting in September through 2026 um, uh, August as well. So we would choose an academic session of 2025 slash 2026. Here you have to specify when the session is starting. In this case, the next session is starting in September 15th. So you okay it here. Now, the current term is basically what term are you running right now? And if the term has ended, you have to choose the next upcoming term, obviously. So the term that is coming next is the first term, which is, of course, the term that starts the session. Um, you can give the term a name. This name doesn't quite matter, but it just makes it quite easy for you to identify terms based on how you name them internally. For most schools, the first term of an academic session, especially in Africa, is called the Christmas term. So we just call it the Christmas term. The current term starts date is the date where that particular term is going to start. And again, it is 15th of September. Once that's done, you just click next. Now you get to add your classrooms. Um, we are setting up a kindergarten, that's a nursery school, and nursery schools are expected to have between 2 to 3 classes. That's 2 to 3 grade levels. So it could be nursery one or nursery two and nursery three. Or in some schools that are much more streamlined, it could just be nursery one and nursery two. So if it's just nursery one and nursery two, you can just add the nursery one and nursery two classes. Now the classroom setup is a bit segmented for each grade level because in much larger schools, a grade can have multiple classrooms. Like in schools where the population is a lot, the student population is a lot, they can have arms like nursery 1A and nursery 1B and nursery 1C. Now, all of these nursery 1 classrooms fall within the same grade level, so you would want to set them up under the same grade level. So on this screen, you can see the first kindergarten grade. Let's call it nursery 1A. You can add the second kindergarten grade just beneath it, nursery 1B. And you can remove one if you made a mistake. There's that button there. Nursery, let's put that again. Nursery 1D. Then the second kindergarten grade would be nursery 2A and nursery 2B. See? If your kindergarten class has a kindergarten school, that's a nursery school, has a third class, you can just click this here, add an extra grade, and you would see the third grade. But if you added that by mistake, you can just remove it. Now, how do you choose what should be considered a classroom to add to Cosine? Some schools have preschools uh, as well. That's the classes, the grade levels before kindergarten. Now, if you have a preschool and your preschools do not, the students in your preschool do not take tests, exams, and they are not expected to return with a report card at the end of the term or some sort, then please do not add those classes, those grades to your nursery school because technically they are not exactly a school yet. They are preschools, so they are not a school. Cosine is basically designed for schools that are already official, not preschools. In the future, we would include preschool offerings, but for now, let's focus on the actual schools. So once you have your classroom set up, you can just click next, and it takes you to the default curriculum. When setting up the default curriculum, there is something you need to be very cautious of here. Um, in some schools, you you have classrooms that offer specific subjects and other classrooms that do not offer that subject. Now, if there is a subject in your school that is unique to classes, say science classes and art classes, you shouldn't include that subject in the default curriculum. The default curriculum is basically a curriculum that contains all the subjects that is offered by all the students in the school. Let me repeat. The default curriculum contains only subjects that are offered by every student in your school, regardless of their classroom, their grade level, or whatnot. Um, a good example of subjects that will go into the default curriculum is mathematics, English, you know, um, most likely basic sciences for junior secondary schools and all of that. Now, in kindergarten, usually all the classrooms offer the same subjects, so you just add your subjects here. In senior high schools, which is senior secondary schools, you start seeing situations or scenarios where subjects are isolated for specific classrooms. When that is the case, you only have to include subjects that are offered by all the students in all of the classrooms, regardless of their grade levels in this phase. Um, Inside the application, you would have the option to add specific curriculums and assign them to their respective classrooms. So for this stage, let's stick to subjects that are offered by all students. Okay. So for a nursery school, we would expect subjects like English literacy, um, numeracy, which is the now new name for mathematics. Yeah. Um, Basic science. I'm not sure if they do that, but for setup sake. Um, Social studies, creative art, where they do the whole finger painting and all of that. Handwriting, where they do scribbling and they use 2D notebooks. And I mean, I'm not very sure, but let's say home economics and whatnot. You can add all the subjects here. Please make sure you add one subject per line because Cosine treats each line as a subject of its own. So once you're done adding all of the subjects, you can just click next. Now, here is this session of the onboarding of the setup covers assessment and grading. Yeah, every school basically have a way that they assess their students. So some schools conduct tests, multiple tests throughout the academic term, and some schools conduct just one test and then exams. This particular screen during the setup um, process requires you to specify what tests your school conduct and how each of those tests contributes to the student's overall performance. By default, you're going to see examination there. You won't be able to edit it. So please don't add exam again since it's already there. Except your school does not do exams, which is weird if you think of it. Now you want to add the tests. So let's call this first test. And first test contributes, let's say, 20% of the student's overall performance. You want to add maybe a second test, which contributes maybe 20% of the student's overall performance. And maybe you want to add notebooks if notebooks contribute, or attendance if attendance contribute, and you add the percentage contribution there. Once you're done with that, you just hit next and you're fully set up. Okay, that is how you set up a school. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to enroll a student individually and as well as in batches so that you can enroll multiple students at once if you're setting up your school for the first time. So, yeah, that is it on how to set up a school.